The Year of Spectacular Men is an upcoming film directed by actress Lea Thompson and stars her daughters Madelyn Deutch, who also wrote the screenplay, and Zoey Deutch. I had Lea on the show to discuss her film, the beauty of creating art with your children, how the protracted process of giving birth is like making an indie film, and the type of film Woody Allen would make if he were a 20-year-old girl. The Year of Spectacular Men will be having its world premiere at the LA Film Festival on June 16th at 9 p.m. For more information, go to filmindependent.org/LA-film-festival. I hope you enjoy the show. With this, it's such a wonderful little movie. You've done something really special here.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited that you thought so. There's so few people that have seen it, so it's so weird that when someone does. But that's so nice. I'm so glad you enjoyed it.
Well, you're going to start hearing that a lot, I have a feeling, because it's a fairly unconventional movie. It looks a lot like a romantic comedy from the outside, but when you actually pay attention to the film and where it ends up landing in the end, it's really not that at all, and it's something that I think we really need right now.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it was a real premeditated thing to make a conventional, unconventional movie like that. That's so sweet that you see that, because that was really something that we set out to do with the way we wanted it to look and the pace of the movie, how we wanted it to go, and then slow down at the end. And we wanted it to be just like it ended up, which is kind of great. But it was thought out that way, so I'm so happy that you noticed that.
Well, can you talk a little bit about this is clearly a family project, so when did this project get brought to you, and how involved were you in the writing process, and when did you decide to direct this?
From the very beginning, my daughter wrote it, so she was always a great writer, and she writes songs. She wrote 5 of the songs and the underscoring for the movie, and so I knew her that way. And we've actually been kind of performing together since she was 10. So we've always kind of worked together. And but she wasn't really thinking about acting. She was more like a musician. But she came home from college, and she was just like so many millennials, kind of didn't really know what to do with her life. And she had all these terrible, funny stories about romance, her. And so I was like, why don't you write it? Because I already knew she could, bare her soul, and which is a really hard thing about writing is, it's always personal, and it's always, easily traceable to some experience or some person or something, you know what I mean? It's just really...
Yeah, of course.
Anyway, I knew she had that courage, and so I said, why don't you write about it? And I honestly didn't think it was going to be as good as it was. I mean, she went away, she wrote it, and I read it, and I was like, this is amazing. This is amazing. Can I direct it? And she was like, yeah. And so it was a really big gift to me, because I'd been looking for, 15 years to try to direct a movie, but nothing it's such a boulder to push up a hill, when you're making a living, doing something else. It's so it requires such tenacity to make a movie like this from the ground up. So I had never found anything that inspired me so much, and so we worked on it, and we had several different producers, and we finally got these amazing producers. I'll never forget the meeting, because it's a difficult sell. Women in their early 20s are kind of disappear off the face of the earth in movie land. They just don't tell that story very often. And we also needed the 6 guys that were young, that would be willing to make fun of themselves, and there was not a foreign sale. It was hard box to find for raising the money. And our amazing producers from Parkside Pictures, I'll never forget the meeting. Maddie left. She was like, "These guys aren't going to help us." You know, they didn't seem interested, and at the last minute they were kind of like, "Yeah, I think we can figure out how to make this." And I was just floored because they were like our knights in shining armor.
Well, it's all there, though. I can't imagine. I guess you're right that we don't see a lot of films like this from the female point of view at this age and telling an honest portrayal of what it's like to be a young woman in their 20s. And I think that's what's so unusual about it. And it seems like somebody would want to jump on that. A smart producer would, because there's definitely there's a hole in the market.
There really is, and that's one of the other reasons Maddie was so intent on making this movie, was that she was like, there's nothing I can find to watch that I want to see. Like, there's nothing that speaks to me. And there's, you know, and this is completely unusual because she was, 22 or 23 when she wrote it, 22 in her first draft. But, like, you know, she's really in the trenches, you know. It's like, these are fresh stories from the trenches. And you know, and it's I like her take. I like, you know, she has a very self-deprecating kind of sense of humor about herself, and you know, that's kind of how we roll here in this family. But it's a decidedly kind of you know, way of looking at the world. And, you know, all tragedy it turns quickly to comedy around here. So that's how we see things. And, you know, I was super proud of her writing and her ability to keep reforming it, you know, you know, changing it, making notes. And that was really fun for me to be able to develop something for that long. I've never had that experience in the 35 years in Hollywood I have had. This is the first thing that I got to really help mold from the very, very beginning, and it was super exciting, really fun.
And what was it like to see your daughter through this really personal lens? Did you have this kind of honesty with her before, or did you see a side of her through the screenplay that maybe you hadn't seen before?
Yeah, I think both, but it was more of the character was revealed more during the process of making the movie, you know, for me, more than from the script. I think I kind of knew, you know, I mean, it's all not really real, but I know stories about her life, you know. She had already been a woman for a while, and we have you know, I've always tried to be as honest as possible with my kids, so we have that kind of relationship. Like, I don't want to know everything, trust me, but it was more like the revealing in the trenches, you know, when you're working on something, you know. It's like your character is revealed when the chips are down or when the tensions mount, you know. And it was fun, you know, to be in the trenches and look, you know, at her, across at her, and know that we had each other's backs. And that was really very, very special and enlightening, because you never know. Like, you never know when you're going to crack, you know. And this is a very passionate project, a passionate process, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just thinking about the film. It really hit home because I have a 6-year-old and a 17-month-old, and the 6-year-old just started playing violin. And so 2 nights ago, for the first time, we started kind of messing around, and I was playing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star on the guitar, and he was playing that on the violin at the same time, and we're playing together. And it's just something about having that moment where you're being creative with your children. I don't think there's anything better in the world than that. No, I don't think so either. And, you know, joy, you know, expresses itself so much through creativity and making, you know, and I think a lot of that's kind of
been robbed from our society. Like the ability to just even cooking together is so much fun, or kind of doing anything like that. But there's really not that much of it in our world right now, because everybody's so in their phones and all that stuff. So those opportunities are a real blessing, and something exactly what you're saying. And I've had that experience with her. I've had the honor to sing with both my daughters. I've had the honor to direct both my daughters and act with them and dance with them. So it's really fun.
And is there, going forward with this, is this something where you would want to direct again from here, work with them again, or is it something where you just kind of want to move back in front of the camera after this?
No, I really want to. I'm working on a career as a director. I've actually been directing for like 10, 12 years. I don't know how long.
Really?
Yeah. I directed 2 TV movies that I starred in, Jane Doe movies. I directed Switched at Birth, and I did the show that I did, and I did a bunch of episodes in that, and then I just directed the Goldbergs, and so I am kind of moving in that direction, because I think the really great parts for women my age kind of all go to women who have Academy Award nominations, and I don't have one, so I'm not getting the great parts. So I'd rather, create my own content, hopefully, and it is wonderful to be able to use everything that I've learned in the course of my life, both professionally and personally, as a director. It's a blessing. It's a blessing to feel like I'm continually learning something new.
You say there's no great parts, but I agree mostly. But you've done one of my favorite films of the last 10 years, actually. Trouble with the Truth. I adore that movie. I've seen that half a dozen times now. That's one of my favorites.
Oh, I love you. I love that movie too. I love that movie so much.
It's great.
Special.
It's such a beautiful movie.
It's so special. What I think is really interesting about that movie too is how tense it makes you feel. Like how you're like, you feel like there's so much tension, like what's going to happen, and it all kind of lays out so slowly that it almost feels like real life to me. Like if you were on a date and you were like going through this whole date and you're like, what's going to happen,
Yeah.
I'm so proud of that movie, and it's funny because Jimmy and I we were just like a half a year ago, we were at a film festival talking about that movie. We've been on the road with that movie for a lot of years, but
well, it's one of the good ones, and that's definitely one of the ones that you can stand up behind, and I think you've done that again here with Year of Spectacular Men, and it's something that feels just as personal. And one of the things I love about both those films, kind of putting them side by side in my mind, is I don't want to get into the details of it, but the way they end is something that I didn't see coming, but I'm so glad that they ended that way because it's what the stories deserved in both cases.
Oh, that's so nice. Yeah, endings are so hard. I mean, I felt like we were blessed because we were like, well, let's shoot an alternate ending, which is the ending you think would happen. But we just never got the actor, like he wasn't there. So we never could shoot that ending. We never even, it was in the back of my mind a couple times, like we were even shooting the end, the last, because, we had to shoot almost a whole year to get everything we needed, and we were shooting the last bits in New York, and I was like, should I shoot it? Should I shoot them like running towards each other at the end or something? I was like, no. And he left, and I had my cell phone. I was like, no, I'm not going to shoot it because then I'll use it because, So, we had a really specific idea, and, it's maybe not as commercial, but that was what Maddie wanted, and that's what she gets. And that's what I learned from my husband, who's a director, is really, try to honor the writer, try to honor the vision of the writer, the the unique perspective that they bring to it. You know, if you've said, yes, I'll direct this movie, you know, respect the writing and really try to honor it.
You do, though, and because it has this singular voice that's coming through, and I don't know where Maddie ends and you begin in that process, but it feels like it's a reflection of one person, really.
Yeah, I know, and it's super unique because the very end, we had a great song at the end, but that Maddie had written, but we couldn't use it because there was a third writer on the song who's famous and wouldn't give us the rights. Super famous. Oh. I'm like, really? You're not going to give this poor little blonde girl the rights to her own movie, you know, her own song? But anyway, that happened. So she had to write the last two songs after the movie was cut and put them in. So it's actually like an interesting extension of her writing in the songs. Like, yeah, sometimes it works like that, actually, naturally, but she actually wrote that, which was kind of cool. Like So yeah, it's like even the music was like her voice, which is really fun and unusual.
Yeah, absolutely. And could you talk a little bit about the casting of the spectacular men that you had here? Because each one of them is really fantastic in their own way. Because they all go to some pretty absurd areas, but they still feel very human. And that's a difficult balance to strike when you're doing a comedy like this, where it can get pretty broad, but it still feels very grounded at the same time.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy. I feel good. I love these guys. They were heroes. They, you know, I really, and that has a lot to do with Maddie and Zoe's relationships, because with a lot of the actors, because I was like really afraid, because it's hard. They're smaller parts. They're you know, Maddie is an unknown actress, and they're basically you know, not making fun of themselves, but really doing things that aren't like leading men kind of things. You know, they're really kind of like and so we set out to cast this, and, you know, of course, we only had like $750,000 for each one of them, but no, we had no money. So they are so spectacular and so lovely. And Nick Braun was the first person to sign on, and he plays the director at the end. And
yeah.
He had so many wonderful contributions and so many great ad-libs, and he was always so game to try anything. And we had to shoot with him in San Francisco, we had to shoot with him in Los Angeles, and we had to shoot with him in New York. So he really schlepped around for us, and that was awesome. And I mean, Jesse Bradford's unbelievable. I mean,
yes,
he is. I've always been a fan. My daughter was a Uber fan. So Maddie was an Uber fan, and she was really nervous about the first day doing that love scene on the table with him.
Yeah, even if it wasn't him, I could imagine that would be a little bit nerve-wracking.
Yeah, the love scenes were very nerve-wracking, and he just kills me. I mean, he's so funny. And Brandon T. Jackson,
yes.
It's just so good. And such a leading man. I mean, he was so sweet about it. And he was like, I never do these scenes. No one lets me do this. And I'm like, you're so handsome. Look at your body. Look at how good you are. Look at how kind and sweet and lovely you are. And funny. Like, he should be the star of every, every romantic comedy. He was so game and sweet and so down with making fun of himself. I just loved him so much, and I could do a whole movie just about him. And and then Cameron Monaghan.
Yes.
So funny. Like, the worst thing about this movie for me is that I had to, just because of time, cut out a great scene with Cameron that he was genius in. But I was like so long. And I had to cut that scene out, so I'm hoping that we get a release, and that's in the bonus features, because he was so funny and so nice. And the movie, most of the movie we shot was a terrible heat wave in L.A., and because we had so little money, every location we got, we were like, why is it cheap? Because it doesn't have air conditioning. So there's one scene that Cameron was in, and we put him in like a winter coat, and he was very sweet about it, but we were like passing out from heat exhaustion. But yeah, Cameron was awesome. You know, just showed up and saved the day. He'd done a movie with Zoey, and he was happy to help us, and it was really sweet. He just tweeted about the movie and did like 1.8 million followers or something, so that was nice of him. Then Zach. Zach Rohrig was so lovely, you know, because we had to drag him from Atlanta where he was shooting his show and into the snowstorm, a terrible snowstorm where we shot that Lake Tahoe stuff. Was like a terrible snowstorm, and he was really game and really funny. And he, too, has a great scene that I had to cut out of the movie, too, and I'm just killing myself. It's terrible when that happens.
Well, that's a good thing. You have too much good material.
Yeah.
And so that brings a question, though. When you're going through the editing process, do you have an objective eye? Can you stand back from sort of your personal relationship with a scene and actually see the bigger arc of the picture, and, you know, or do you bring in an outside editor that can see it with fresh eyes?
I had an editor, and we edited forever. A great editor, an editor that my husband had worked with on really big movies. He even edited some kind of Wonderful.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You guys, all three of you have been together for a long time.
Yeah, Seth Flom, he's a wonderful. He did The Replacements and My Best Friend's Girl and High School Musical. He was a great editor. And we went around and around and around and around. And you know, I'm sure he had to be very patient with me, because we only had one camera too, which is really hard. All the TV stuff I do always has two cameras, so it was the first time I only had one camera. So and because of the anamorphic lenses, it becomes really difficult to make sure things match, and I'm kind of a stickler for matching. So, you know, cuts kind of flowing together. I'm really a stickler for it, so I would really be difficult about that. So that was a really fun process. But yes, I can let go of stuff, and I can certainly let go of myself, because I've directed myself a lot. So I can be like, get off her, I don't need to look at me anymore.
And also, you brought up something else there that I kind of wanted to talk about. With this being such a low-budget film, how did you shoot all over the country the way you did? Because this is New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Tahoe, where you shot the winters. Okay. How did you do that on such a tight budget?
Again, my Parkside Pictures, my producers were geniuses. I mean, geniuses. Everyone said it couldn't be done. Like the budgets would come in at $10 million or something like that, or 15, 20, and I was like, well, that's not going to...
It looks like it.
What?
It looks like a $15, $20 million picture, though.
Thank you. Yeah, my producers were amazing, and my DP was who really, I mean, I took a real jump. You know, because he really didn't have that much. Like, you know what I mean? He's not like Mr. Indie dude, you know?
Right.
But he had worked with Parkside Pictures. His name is Brian Koss, and he was just like, let's get it done. Like, he totally got my references. You know, when I first told him how I wanted it shot, I was really obsessed with it being very, symmetrical, especially when I shot all the guys, and you know, when they're talking by the camera, kind of like doing their little thing. And I wanted everything to be lush and beautiful. I wanted to give millennials their due, you know, like they don't all have to be shot in like bad light with cameras on the shoulders, like they can. I wanted to do it. It's also my daughters. I wanted them to be pretty, but
yeah.
I wanted it to be a very poppy, pretty movie, and I fought really hard for every one of the sets, all the set dressing, and Brian was right there with me. He had these really interesting idea about the different filters he used for the different time. Not only did we have to do a whole year, we also had to do the different places, and like sometimes we'd shoot LA for San Francisco and San Francisco for New York. I mean, sometimes just because of what happened, we'd have to be in the wrong city shooting the other city. So I don't know how they did it. We have to interview my. It helps that the two leading actresses had to not fly first class because it was me, but and that they were willing to do it. And Zoey was a producer on the movie as well, so they were willing to dress in a car every once in a while.
You wouldn't dream of asking a random actress to do that, but when it's your daughters, you can get away with it.
I can get away with it. But the guys, I forgot to talk about how great Avin Jogia was, because he's isn't he lovely?
Yes, so very much so.
So funny and so awesome that and I was really happy that we didn't have to have like a completely, what would the word be? Caucasian cast,
It wasn't whitewashed.
Yeah, it wasn't a completely whitewashed cast. So that was really nice, and Avin was so funny and beautiful.
Yeah. Oh gosh, he's definitely a handsome young man. So,
yes.
And the thing is, their relationship feels so natural and lived in with him and Zoey. Did they know each other prior to this?
Yeah, they did. They actually were boyfriend and girlfriend, so that's why.
Oh, okay.
They look like that. Yeah, I know. Some people wanted me to cut that scene where they're like laying in bed and Maddie walks in and knocks on the door and says, breaks them up in their sleep. And I was like, no, you cannot cut that. These are the most beautiful people in the world. It's a beautiful light with a fuzzy pillow. Come on. America needs to see this. And also they're funny. So, no.
Yes, absolutely.
No.
You were talking about the look of the film. It's one of the things I loved about it, that you do have these rich, like, red and golds throughout the film, especially in the New York sequences, where it feels like a classic romantic comedy. And I think because of that, the juxtaposition of some of the story, which is very modern, it feels very comfortable, and you have expectations of it, and then it's sort of undercutting that with the actual screenplay, and the look is going against that, and I really adore that about the movie.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I knew it would be daring because it's not at first look looks like an indie darling movie, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
It is actually going against that grain of how people are shooting these movies right now, and I knew that I could take I could take a few hits from that about that, but it was a really specific notion. I mean, I think because Maddie's humor has this kind of like, it's got this New York Jewish feel to it. I always felt like this movie, the look that I actually tried to go for was an Annie Hall, and sure. Because I felt like what if Woody Allen was making a movie now and he was a 22-year-old girl? You know what I mean? What?
Who hasn't thought that?
So that what tickled me, and so I tried to take that gorgeous look that he used to get and put it into the movie.
Hence the anamorphic lenses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
I didn't pull the color down as much to saturate it to look or desaturate it to look like film as much, because I tried that and I didn't like it. But I did like the wide thing.
Yeah, and I was just wondering, as far as when you start showing this to people and it's so personal, I would imagine, much like your daughters, there has to be a level of protection behind it. But whenever you put art into the world, it's very vulnerable. So how do you feel about kind of letting this one go and putting it out into the world now?
Well, I keep equating it to this. Maybe your wife could relate. When you're pregnant, especially the first time, you're like, when you first start, the first few months, you're like so scared. You're like, oh my God, at the end of this is nothing but blood and hospitals and like scary and like what's going to happen and oh my God, will I be a mother and will I be brave and oh my gosh. And then you get to be like 8 months pregnant and you're kind of like, yeah, okay, well maybe there'll be, and by the time you're at 9 months, you're like, get it out, get it out. I don't care how much it hurts, just get it out.
That is absolutely true.
That's how I feel, because we wrapped this movie after shooting it for almost a year ago. So I'm like, get it out. It's time. I've been thinking about it, and I've been nurturing it, and I've been hoping for it, and now it's time. So my baby is going to be born, and it's going to have a name, and people are going to like it or not like it, and that's great.
They're going to love it. They absolutely are. This is one of those movies that I think it's really smart because it's something that a 40-year-old guy like myself can watch, or a 20-year-old girl can watch this and enjoy it on two completely different levels. And I think that's something you don't see. It's because it's smart and it's personal, and we need more films like this. And so I think this is definitely going to find an audience.
Oh, you made me so happy.
No, that is all what you did for me. You made me incredibly happy with this film, so thank you for that.
Oh.
And I know it's playing at the Los Angeles Film Festival.
Yes.
Do you know the date for that offhand?
The date is June 16th. June 16th. And
excellent. And
then, hopefully the LA Film Festival is good because movies, everyone's here. So hopefully it will sell. Everyone's done with Cannes, and so hopefully it will sell and find